To learn the good, the bad, and the reality of the nomadic lifestyle, click the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Click the bell notification. As I've said many times, Carolyn and I are going to start our off-grid living lifestyle here in a couple weeks. We're going to go down to our new piece of property that we just bought, and we're going to start setting up the well. We need to put a well in place. We have to get the camper off the truck and put it onto its new base so we have some place to live temporarily until we can build a tiny house. Now, I found it very interesting that I try to document my life. I've been on YouTube for 3 years since we started living in our pop-up camper. And ever since I started the YouTube channel, it's quite fascinating to me how many people will tell me you can't do something. I just can't do that. For example, I flipped the axle on my pop-up camper so it would ride a little bit higher. Oh, you can't do that, you'll wear out the tires. I mean, I was aware of the situation that it would wear out the tires a little bit faster, but it was much better than dragging the camper all over the ground. And I will tell you that the camper, we had the camper for a year until somebody burned it down, never needed a tire replacement. We went, I think, almost 10,000 miles on them. I mean, that's a lot of miles put on a camper, and it was really overweight. I mean, we had it really weighed down. Saying you can't do something means you cannot do it. I will agree, it may not be the most advisable thing in the world to do, but it can be done. Of course, then, when you tell people that you're going to live in a pop-up camper, oh, you can't do that. I remember when I handed the keys over to my landlord, he said, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to go travel and live in our camper. In the pop-up? Yeah, yes, sir. You can't do that. You'll freeze to death. What are you going to do in the winter? And well, I mean, we went down to Florida for half the winter, but the first half of the winter, we actually just stayed in Missouri in our pop-up camper, and we did fine. I mean, it may not be the best conditions in the world. Again, saying you can't do something means it's physically impossible to do. And we physically did it. Well, of course, then somebody burned down the pop-up camper, and we built the truck camper. We built it in 2.5 weeks. I think the initial cost was $550 the first time, and then we added another $200. So it came up to a total of $750. 2.5 weeks, and we were back on the road. When we got it built, we were in Florida, and we spent the entire summer in South Dakota. So, I mean, we traveled all the way from the south, all the way up north in this camper that people say, you cannot do this. And the reason you can't do it is because it's going to fly off the back of your truck. And they were telling me about all these expensive devices I was going to have to strap it down to the truck so it wouldn't fly off. I've never done anything except the 4 bolts that I've had on it for 2 years now. So it's always surprising to me. Again, you can't do something, yet I seem to have done it. So I must be the miracle child in this world. So now we're going to start off-grid living on, our 1.5 acres that we just bought. And the first thing I said was, we're going to get a well pump and we're going to run off the generator. You can't do that. You can't get a well pump off a generator. Those cheap ones, they don't pump very well. And it's just on and on and on about all the reasons I can't have a well pump off my generator. Found a well pump. I can run off the generator. I made a video about this a while back, but even one of the guys in the review said he runs his well pump off the generator. So apparently you can do it. And then I was told, if you don't test the water in the well, you shouldn't buy the property. Got to test the water. And if the water's bad, you can't buy the property because it could be contaminated. And I've said this before too. Well, if it's contaminated, it wouldn't be any worse than the water that we drank out of the stream in South Dakota and in Utah. And there was one other place, I can't think of where it was though, that we drank water right out of the stream. You just have to know how to deal with it. And so, we're going to chlorinate it, and then we're going to use our Berkey. Our Berkey is our life support. It's a water purification system. It's a great device. I had it forever. I've had it longer than I've been in Nomad. It really cleans water. It takes lead out, arsenic out, takes mercury out, takes chemicals that they put out in the fields, that takes those out. kills bacteria. And then to kill any viruses, you can put a little bleach in it. And that's what we do. That being said, as soon as people said, you can't use that well, I immediately looked, and you can use the well. You just got to flush it out with chlorine, bleach. And there's all kinds of videos out there, and they all say the same thing. A guy I know about wells, and he said the same thing. Oh, just dump bleach in it and then let it sit overnight and then pump the bleach out. And then I said, I'm going to build a tiny house. And I want to do it for about $5,000. I don't want to go over much $5,000. And one guy said, you're not even going to be able to build the floor for $5,000. On the property, we have a mobile home sitting on it that has been torn apart. People have taken all the pieces off of it. There's very little left. It's just basically the trailer frame now. Some tin metal and different things, but for the most part, it's just a trailer. And we're going to build a tiny house on top of the trailer. Now, one of the things that there is an advantage to is I cannot find anything in the code book, you know, the county codes, that says you can't rebuild a trailer. So this actually makes total sense. Rebuild the trailer and live in the trailer. Now, Missouri is very lenient on its codes, so I don't have a lot of concerns about any code violations that we're going to be in the first place. But to even lessen the stress of any code violation we might run into, if I build something onto the trailer, you know, it's like building something on a trailer. It really can't be that big of a deal. I've made homemade trailers before, like trailers you drive down the road behind your car, you tow them. And if you want to put it on the road, you go to the license office and say, yeah, I built a trailer, and they give you a homemade trailer permit. So I don't think that building something on the trailer is going to cause any issues with anything. So my plan is not to use the whole trailer. When I talk about tiny house, I'm talking about 400 square feet at most. So that's 20 by 20 if you just did a square. But I need to go down and measure what the trailer is going to be. The most common single wide trailers are 8 feet wide, 10 feet wide, and 12 feet wide. So I just pulled up a video on some guy that is actually building a tiny house. He's calling it a tiny mansion house on YouTube. And he did the same thing. He just built it right on top of the trailer. And that's exactly what I plan on doing. And so I can use 2x4s for the floor. For example, 2x4s are less than $3 a piece. And what am I going to need? I think, you know, 20 maybe at the most. So, you know, 3 times 20 is 60 bucks. And I have a floor frame. Throw some plywood on it, and I'm under $500. Way under $500. Not the $5,000 I was told it was going to cost. And so my plan is to spend $500 a month. I'm going to consider rent for a few months. Every month I'll just set aside $500, so we'll have our $800 that we live on. I'll take another $500 and buy materials for the house. If I can do anything with those materials during that month, I will. But let's say the materials cost $1,000. The most expensive thing I think I've come across so far, and I may rethink this, is the metal roofing material I want to use for the siding and the roof. That's pretty expensive, so I may have to rethink this. Galvanized sheet metal is actually a little bit cheaper, so I'm thinking about what I'm going to do about the roof and the siding. But you know, that's miles down the road. Right now, build the floor, build the walls, and for maybe $1,000 I can have most everything built, framed out, and I will actually have a house without a roofing material on it or siding material. And I just can't see it's going to cost too much more than the $5,000. And then I just got to work on the inside, and literally I can work on the inside forever. We can actually move in, you know, get it insulated, move in, and then I can hang drywall or whatever we want to do with that. So it should be an ongoing project after we can get into it. So yes, I think you can do it. It just takes a lot of effort to figure out how to do it. I think that's where people struggle. It's just easier to say, oh, you can't do it, than to actually figure out how to do it. If you really are interested in the nomadic lifestyle, or the off-grid living lifestyle. Really try to think about how you can make that happen as you start to set up your lifestyle. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.